What's up, y'all? Roy here, and you are listening to the Clemenz with a Z podcast. Now, what happens when you're not ready to throw out your faith, but you're also not buying the version you were handed? That's the space today's guest, Jeremy Steele, also known as the Skeptic Pastor, has been living in and leading from for years. And it's exactly what drew me to his work, because there's a big difference between being cynical and being skeptical. Cynicism throws out everything. Skepticism says, let me think this through. Let me keep asking questions. Let me hold my beliefs with curiosity instead of fear. Jeremy is a pastor, an author, and the founder of Not Church, a spiritual community for people who have experienced deep religious trauma but still crave meaning, connection, and something bigger than themselves. In this conversation, we talk about that tension, the ache, the weird, often beautiful middle ground between walking away from a harmful version of faith and still hoping that something sacred is possible. Now we get into it all: doubt, trauma, therapy, ancient texts, even tarot cards. And I love that Jeremy doesn't try to give easy answers. He talks about what it means to unpretend in our spiritual lives, how pretending that everything's fine, that our faith is perfect, that we're too blessed to be stressed, actually stunts growth. He talks about how the Bible has been weaponized and how for some people engaging with it, again, isn't just hard, it's unhealthy. And yet, he also talks about community, grace, and his own complicated journey of staying in the role of a pastor, even when belief itself feels slippery. One of the things that stuck with me from this conversation is Jeremy's reminder that truth is truth wherever you find it, that you don't have to use the tools of geology to measure your spiritual health, and that not everything has to be proven to be real, and that even when you don't know if God exists, you can still live a meaningful, grounded, beautiful life. If you're someone who's deconstructing, disillusioned, curious, or just trying to hold on to something that feels sacred still, this one's for you. So let's dive in. All right, we are live. Hey, Jeremy, how are you?
I'm doing okay today.
I like that you're honest with okay. That's good.
Yeah. I once
You
read
know,
this book called Messy Spirituality by a guy named Mike Yaconelli. And
mhm,
one of the things that he talks about is that there's this rule in churches, and the rule is that you pretend that everything is good, that you're happy, that your marriage is good, blah, blah, blah. And he says that pretending is actually the thing that stunts growth in people individually and as a community. And so he said that we need to start unpretending. And when we stop pretending, we expose the pretending of everyone else, and the bubble of the perfect Christian life is burst, and we can deal with like our brokenness.
mhm.
And it, so he said, like it starts with like, hey, how are you doing? You don't have to dump all your trauma in the moment, but like you don't have to say, great, too blessed to be stressed, right? Just be real. Like if oh, I forgot to ask, can you cuss on this podcast?
Yes, yes,
Okay, okay,
cussing
okay,
does
great.
happen on this
Right.
podcast.
If your life is shit, like just be like, no, I'm not today. No good.
Yeah, I like to pause before I answer that kind of question, even if
Hmm.
it's for a second, just to take a second to be like, how am
Hmm.
I doing? And
Right.
sometimes I notice if I do that with people that don't know me or haven't done that before, they get really nervous. They're like,
Yeah, they do. What's
why'd you
about to
pause?
happen?
Yeah. And then if you don't, but I notice if you don't say great, then people get really concerned really fast.
I'm like, oh, are you okay? I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm okay. Like some
Yeah.
days I am really crashing through the floor. Some days I'm
Hmm.
soaring. Today is neither of those things.
Yeah. We should normalize saying okay.
Yes.
Hashtag normalize saying okay.
Yes. 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 Yes.
There we go. Well,
Actually,
first off,
yeah.
I'm super
Go
pumped
ahead.
to have you on. Um, The thing that drew me essentially to your platform and your books and this thing is was probably you get a lot is that skeptic pastor.
Hmm.
And I think for me, I loved it because this old quote by Rob Bell where he talks about how cynicism is easy.
Yeah.
And it's easy for us to just think all of everything is wrong, everything's crap if, you can't trust anything with the church or anything like that. And I'm just like, I don't know. I just feel like if we become cynical about everything, then what's the point of keeping
Right.
going? You know?
Yeah. That's 100%. Like I also huge fan of Rob Bell.
Hmm.
His progression of thought and understanding really in a lot of ways has mirrored my own over the
Hmm.
years. And and yeah, I mean, um I feel like almost every one of his books has like changed my life in
Hmm.
a bunch of ways. And so that's obviously then I guess I've read all of his books. Just brilliant,
Hmm.
brilliant communicator. I feel like his talent, that's his thing, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, we can talk. I can talk forever about Rob Bell. I spent a lot of time thinking about him and what makes him so interesting and effective. But yeah.
He's kind of like an arrow. And let me
Hmm.
explain that because I think reading his books has pointed me to other people.
Right, right.
It's like his thought process and the way he communicates. It's like he pointed me to Richard Rohr, and then
Right.
Richard Rohr in some way pointed me to Ram Dass, and then it just these guys
Uh-huh.
keep pointing me. So he showed me that there's all of this world out there,
Yeah. Yeah.
ways of thinking to expand,
Yeah.
your thought on
Absolutely.
faith or God or any of that. So that's why I dig them. But like the skeptic pastor, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that? I know you probably get that asked a lot, but
Um, like how did I come up with the name or what does it mean?
um, more like, yeah, what does it mean? What does it mean to you?
Well, um, I have always been a skeptic. And so, and what I mean by that is that um, for me, skepticism is is not just taking somebody random person's word for something,
Hmm.
but skepticism is very much like wanting to um, structure your beliefs around reliable data,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so that means in some ways you're always questioning everything, um, in the sense that you're always open to new data. And what that means effectively is that like there's two things. You're always sort of trying to be curious, and then you're always assuming you could be wrong.
Hmm. Yeah.
and 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 so the thing for me was I like this is just a sort of a personality trait for me. And when I was younger, I grew up in a smaller town in the Alabama part of Florida.
Hmm.
And in that place, I had a very limited pool of people because I'm old. I grew up before the internet, right? So the authority figures in my life, the sort of intellectual authority figures early on, were a limited sample size, right? And so I had an uh, a much larger percentage of people in my life that were sort of fundamentalist evangelicals than anything else. And so when I would ask them questions like, "Well, what about evolution and the Bible?" Like,
Hmm.
I don't get that. They would point me to creation pseudoscience, right? And and so like what that meant is I was collecting data and from what I thought were reputable sources. And then as I continued to grow, as my pool of people in my life
Hmm.
began to broaden, um, I um, I encountered new data and encountered the fact that a lot of what I've been told was unreliable, right?
Yeah.
I also began to understand that, and this is an important thing for me in understanding what it means to be a skeptic and a pastor. I also began to understand more and more over time that each different domain has its own set of tools,
Hmm.
right? So cosmologists have their sets of tools, geologists have their sets of tools, ways to collect and analyze data, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so what that means is that when you're looking at a specific question, you have to use the right tools to answer the question. And you the other thing that I began to learn, especially when I was in college, was that there was something called an academic consensus, and there were
Hmm.
organizations that represented that consensus, organizations of academics. And so when you sort of combine those two things, it's a way for somebody who's like me, who's a skeptic, who's always looking for more data, or always, I should say, oh, I'm looking for more data, not on everything. Eventually, you get enough to where you're open to more, but it's going to take a lot to change your opinion.
Hmm.
Like gravity, for example.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
I came in my office, I sat down into this chair, and I was really confident I was going to stay stuck to this chair, right?
Yeah.
You,
Hmm.
I'm very thankful, and the more there's all kinds of really interesting things about gravity. I'm really thankful for the gravitons that are conveying the force of gravity to me, right? Like all of those things. So it would take a lot for me to change that belief.
Yeah. Hmm.
And when you talk about being a skeptic and so it's interesting because a lot of people that call themselves skeptics actually make a fundamental problem. They make a fundamental error in that they decide to apply the tools from one domain onto another. Like
Wow.
applying the
Hmm.
tools for geology to biology. Like you're not going to come up with helpful answers. Um, or the tools for cosmology to psychology. Right? They're different
Yeah.
tools.
Hmm.
And but a lot of people that are skeptics, they're like me, and I understand there's a lot of reasons why, but a lot of people who are like me apply the tools of science to religion or to spirituality or to ancient spiritual texts. And those tools will not give you the answers that are helpful. There
No.
are tools in the field of religion, there are tools in the field of spirituality, there are tools in the field of ancient texts, especially ancient spiritual texts that will give you the data, reliable data for that domain, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and so like as I like discover all of that, for me it gets me to a place where okay, I know, I at least know how to begin answering whatever questions I have. And when it comes to religion and spirituality and all of the things that those combine, it allows me to maintain a uh, maintain some level of uh, spiritual belief uh, that were I not to use those tools, I would not be able to maintain.
Mhm. I like that. I think that it sounds like you're open to the possibility of it being something different than what you normally had or what you were shown,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know?
I always, and
Hmm.
that's what there's a chapter in this book that I just wrote. It's like the chapters, you might be wrong.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
like the reality is I am certain I am wrong about at least 50% of what I believe. I don't
Yeah.
know
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
50%, right? And
Hmm.
what that means is because I'm sure that I'm wrong, I have to sort of hold it all with varying levels of an open hand, right?
Yeah. Hmm. I was I was talking about this yesterday, but I referenced a South Park episode
Yes.
um, where all these people are trying to get into heaven, and there's the guy at the gates with a clipboard, and they're saying like, "I was a Baptist, I was Methodist," and the guy goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, the correct answer was Mormonism." So it's like, and like,
Oh my
there's
gosh.
but I think what was great about that is that we could be wrong,
Yeah.
and we can't hold on so tightly to these
Hmm.
beliefs.
Yeah.
When I was a teacher, we used to talk about having a tight, loose fit on
A tight,
things.
loose fit. What is that?
It's kind of like it is kind of skeptical. It's like you have your basis of curriculum that you're trying to portray to these kids or
Uh-huh.
give these kids. And you can also be free to take a left or a right when needed, because
Right.
sometimes what you are supposed to be teaching today is not what your kids are going to need. Some of your students might be they've already passed that. So you need to figure out, kind of like look at it in a broader perspective.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Um, and I love what you were saying about, you can't apply the same tools to everything.
Yeah.
Like I do think there's a level of academia that needs to be approached with the Bible for
Yeah.
sure, but
For sure.
a lot of times we end up over intellectualizing it
Yeah.
and like taking out the heart of it. And I also think about, even what's the book? Asking Better Questions of the Bible by Marty
Okay.
Solomon, where he talks about their relationship with truth. The writers of the Bible was a lot different than our relationship to truth.
Yeah. Sure.
So it wasn't just like trying to prove everything. It's like the truth was in the interactions, the truth was in the engagement. And that's where you
Hmm.
would find that. And I think that's something that has helped me when I'm like, still engaging with the Bible, which,
Yeah.
I wish, more people could understand. So,
Well, the problem is that the Bible has been weaponized
mhm,
and used to inflict trauma. And so, um, for I'm my personal feeling is that for a lot of people to ask them to engage with the Bible is actually unhealthy. Like they should not, um, because they've been so deeply traumatized
mhm,
by the Bible, by like with somebody using the Bible that that it's not accessible to them anymore, and to engage with it would be detrimental to their psychological health. Obviously,
yeah,
I think everybody needs to be in therapy, right?
mhm,
And the thing is that like that is the church's fault,
yeah,
right? It's not their fault. It's not God's fault. It is the church's fault.
mhm,
And yeah, I've got this community of people, this faith community that I am the pastor of, called Not Church, and it's full of people like that. All kinds of different
mhm.
religious identities and non-identities that are part of this faith community. Um, but um, but yeah, like um, yeah, I feel like it's one of the tragedies of those of religious trauma, for people, that doesn't really get explored very much. That and sacraments, right? We hear a
Yeah.
lot about like different kinds of abuse and that kind of thing, but the loss of those sources for connecting with God is pretty difficult. It's tragic, and it can be incredibly difficult for them.
Yeah, I mean, it was for me as well. I mean, there was a solid after I left the church I was a part of. I think it was like 5 years before I
Uh-huh.
could. I think I was actively trying to find answers anywhere else but Christianity.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and the re-engagement was weird at first. And,
Yeah.
even people that I interview, here on the podcast, a lot of them have a lot of trauma from our church, and the thought of going to the Bible is like you're saying. I mean, it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And and I don't think that we should expect them to do that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
I, and I
Hmm.
and I by extension, and like I don't get to speak on behalf of God, right? But as far as uh, the my understanding of God, um, we're assuming at this point that God exists. But my understanding as a practitioner of Christianity, is that, um, would be that if that's off limit, if that has been ruined for people, um, that God also wouldn't expect them to
Hmm.
engage with that. Um, because this is this beautiful thing about the people in my community is that they've all been deeply wounded by churches. All, yeah, all of them. And yet they're still spiritual
Hmm.
and they want to connect with God. They're interested at least in spirituality. They're curious, whatever. And they all do it in different ways. And I feel like, man, I don't think God cares. Like if these people who've been ruined by the church as far as the typical Orthodox
Hmm.
Christianity, still want to engage with God, but they want to do it through tarot cards. I don't think
Hmm.
God cares. Um,
Yeah. I mean,
I
truth
think
is
that God
truth.
will God will reach out to them
Hmm.
either way.
Yeah. I mean, truth is truth wherever you find it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's hard. It's hard to find a path back. It takes work. You mentioned therapy. I know therapy has been integral in my life for a decade now,
Yeah,
and things like that. But finding ways, it's like some people don't think, oh, I can find God here or there. I don't have to go to a church, or I don't have to read it this way, you know?
right, right.
And I think once you find that, it's very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
And yet I think, and you, I'm sure, talk to people like this all the time, as I do. The thing that my, again, small sample size,
Hmm.
um, my my experience is that the people who were engaged in a church and left, like they don't miss being manipulated out of their money. They don't miss being told they're going to hell.
Hmm.
They do miss community.
Hmm.
They do miss people who they can talk about ultimate things like God
Hmm.
with, but also people who will like be there for them. And that's really what the attraction is to the people who join this not church thing that I do is like it's the community, but a community of people who aren't going to tell you you're going to hell, right?
Yeah.
But that you can post in Discord at midnight, I'm going to the hospital, I've got heart things, and people are there for you.
Hmm. Yeah. I missed. Someone asked me one time if I believe in church anymore. And I was like, I mean, the way that it was shown to me, no, but I do believe in community. I believe in having a
Yeah,
place for you to go to. I mean, we're not meant to be
absolutely.
solitary creatures.
No,
We're meant
we're
to
definitely communal.
yeah, and to have a place where you can feel safe to talk about whatever big questions that you're trying to figure out. I mean, having that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. In my tradition, I I'm trained in Wesleyanism, so
Hmm.
I'm in the United Methodist Church, um, and in our tradition, we talk about different means of grace, like different ways that people connect with God, and our founding dead white guy, his name was John Wesley. He said, I know of no holiness but social holiness, not social justice, social holiness. For him, that meant like in relationship that there is the only way that you can become the best version of yourself or a better version of yourself is
Hmm.
in relationship to other people. That's where that happens, where the growth, he would call it a growth in holiness happens. That there is this sacred, it's the means of grace, this sacred thing that happens, like in communion or something like that, but in relationships.
Wow. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thought. When you were saying that, the first thing that popped up to me is it's kind of like I've heard people say that people are a mirror to yourself. And so
Hmm.
in a way, when you're dealing with them, you're dealing with yourself at the same time. So I can see how like you're helping them, you're also helping yourself. You're
Yeah,
loving
yeah.
them, you're loving yourself. It's a great thing. So what kept you as like into being a pastor? Like reading your book and listening to, your platforms, what's kept you in?
I think really different things in different seasons,
Hmm.
right? Um, there's been many times that I've been ready to throw in the towel and take a different career path. Um, uh, and so early on, I was told by an authority figure in my life when I was a teenager that God wanted me to be a pastor. And so that was, that was what I was doing.
Yeah. Hmm.
um, and then um, later, uh, it was a career. It was fulfilling. I was doing a good job. I was sort of rising in the ranks, and I felt like early on it was like saving souls from hell.
Yeah.
Uh, and then um, and then it sort of transitioned into I'm really good at helping people experience God, like connect with God. And then it was you know, I felt like I was good at um, felt like I was good at helping people use the connection with God or the like typical Christian things to evaluate their own life. Um, at this point, um, there was a book by a researcher, Dr. Lisa Miller, and um, it's called The Awakened Brain. She was at Columbia and partnered with Yale. This is like massive research, like nationally representative samples of a lot of things, peer reviewed, all the things.
Got it.
And um, they were studying faith, religion, um, and people who um, had a qualifier for it, but like basically had fulfilling spiritual beliefs and practices had a statistically significant reduction in all of these negative life things. Uh, so like, or an increase. So like they had a greater ability to deal with stress. You just sort of went down all the sort of classic things that psychologists look for as far as quality of life in general. The other really interesting thing was when people had and recalled um, uh, important religious experiences, they'd used an fMRI machine to watch the brain and see where stuff was happening. And the part of the brain that's stimulated by that is the same part of the brain that's stimulated by SSRIs, which is antidepressants. And
Hmm.
so people who had their qualified understanding of, meaningful religious beliefs and practices, like personal experiences, um, those people there was a really statistically significant protective factor for the recurrence of major depressive disorder, and they controlled for all the different things. It's a fascinating book. So the reason I say that in answer to your question is, at this point, I don't know if God exists. Like, there's some days that I'm really sure that God does exist, and there's days that I'm pretty sure that they don't exist.
Hmm.
Um, However, uh, I do know that if I die and it turns out God didn't exist, I have used my life to do something that will help improve people's life and improve the world. And, I think that's worthwhile. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so that's what keeps me engaged now.
I love that. It's rad, that approach to it. I mean, it's interesting as you were saying there with all this data that they found, you hear preachers all the time use data like that as like, this is why you should be in church, you know?
Yeah.
And there was one pastor, he was essentially saying the same thing, but where you said spiritual practices, it was like church, Bible, prayer,
Yeah.
and they
And
used it.
right. And this had nothing to do with which
Mhm.
religion somebody was practicing. So they
Yeah.
had people of all kinds of different faiths, and it was all the same.
Mhm. It's such a interesting, just the thought of like, I don't know if God exists,
Hmm.
it's just, I think I go back and forth a lot. I think everybody goes back and forth a lot. They just don't want to say it,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think so. I think some people though, maybe I think there's that term true believer.
Hmm.
Um, I think that some people are that way, um, that they ignore data or experiences to the
Hmm.
contrary. They they don't think critically about that element. But most of the people, at least most of the people that I know, um, if they believe in God, it's a back and forth, right? It's a
Hmm.
pendulum swing.
Yeah. And I think that I don't know if I care much anymore about trying to prove God's there or not.
No, I don't think it's possible. Personally, don't find it to be a helpful exercise either intellectually or otherwise.
Mhm.
And so, um, yeah,
Yeah, I like what you were saying. I mean, I would rather invest in people than the place, and that feels more worthwhile than trying to get people to think the way I do, you
yeah,
know?
for sure.
Hmm. So there
Well,
was
I
this.
think the whole
Oh, go ahead.
apologetics thing is just
Hmm.
bullshit, right?
Oh,
Like the arguing about faith, like
yes.
trying to get anybody to believe what I believe. Like it just comes at the interaction from the opposite plate. Like
Hmm.
you and them and your faith all suffer, right?
Yeah.
When if you come in curious as all this instead of as an argument,
Hmm.
you can learn about yourself and about them, and hopefully something new about God or the spirituality or whatever.
And none of the people involved in these arguments are curious,
No,
you know?
no.
And you can watch, it's like it's all over social media,
Oh
these
yeah.
guys on campuses, and how much it
Oh
just
my God.
devolves into just yelling and yelling and
Yeah, it's
yelling.
awful.
Like, what is it
It's like
doing for anyone?
nothing. Like all it's only negative.
And the only thing, it's to go back to that South Park episode, that's probably when we're going to figure out is after we're dead, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, in one of your posts, you said doubt is part of my discipleship.
Okay. Did I use
That,
discipleship? That's a wild thing. I normally don't use that. But yeah, doubt is part of
yeah,
my discipleship. I believe you. I post every day or
sure.
multiple times a day. So I never, somebody can quote me. I'm like, yeah, yeah, sure. I said that. I have no idea what I said. But
But
yeah,
like, I wanted to unpack that a little bit because I
sure.
think the talk of doubt for me is very important
Hmm.
because I lived in a culture where doubt was scary, doubt was wrong, doubt equaled hell, all of them.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I just, what do you mean by that? And how important is doubt to you, like in your faith? And what do you tell people, when they come to you about this with doubts?
I, you know, I, I think that doubts and questions are a sign of spiritual health. It means that you're thinking
Sure.
deeply and
Hmm.
you're trying, you're interested.
Hmm.
And um and I would say like if people aren't doubting, they don't have questions.
Hmm.
It means they're not thinking deeply.
Yeah. Hmm.
At least that's my experience. And they need to find an atheist cousin to help them, right? To help them question more. Um yeah,
Yeah.
so I that's what I tell people. It's like, look, um a lot of people grew up in cultures like that, right? That doubt was evil or whatever. And I say like just it's difficult to let go of those things. I recognize that, but just know, like I think that it's a sign that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. I think in the last number of years that I've really been, on this journey, doubt has led me to like a deeper sense of things,
Hmm.
and it's led me to more truth.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, it's important. So like what do you say to people who've been taught that questioning is the opposite of faith?
See, I say just what I just said.
Okay.
That's what
Right
I
on.
told them.
Sweet. All right. Um, was there a moment when your view of God or church, like, did you have like everything started to shift after this kind of moment?
No, not for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just sort of a gradual progression as I read more, as I was exposed to more thought. Then, as I went to graduate school and got tools to
Mm-hmm.
use and sources to use to really understand faith and life and the Bible. It was like little by little, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was for me. There wasn't a moment, a line in the sand sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. So what's one thing that you used to believe that you no longer do? And what did you replace it with?
I mean, there's like a thousand things. I used to believe that the Bible said that being queer was a sin, and you were at least in danger of hell, if not automatically going there. And I don't believe any of that anymore. And for me, it was very personally damaging as I tried to understand who I was, and who I was a temptation. And
Hmm.
I used to believe that abortion was a sin and that the Bible supported that. I don't believe that anymore. Uh, I I would say that um, on the whole, I think the Bible is for freedom and liberation. The larger arc of that is that way, and which points towards a woman being able to have make her own decisions about
Hmm.
her body, to have bodily autonomy. Like, I used to believe that the Bible was the inerrant word of God. That's complete bullshit. I used to believe that evolution was not a thing. Again, bullshit. Like, I mean, we could go down, I could
Hmm.
probably spend 3 hours just listing all the things. And each one of those came, you know, under scrutiny, and I progressed over time with that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it's the one that I always was the wildest one is the inerrant word of God.
right.
For us, that
It's in no way helpful.
it take 15 minutes on Google and maybe 5 minutes, and you could see why it's not.
Or just think logically. Just think
Hmm.
about it. Like, this
Hmm.
is not possible.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as a pastor, is it? Do you still find that word pastor is loaded? Like you being a pastor, is it hard to if
I
when
don't,
people refer to you as that?
well, hmm, I, when I'm sitting at a bar next to somebody and they ask what I
Mm-hmm.
do, I don't say I'm a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
We might get to that place. Um, but I think there's definitely a loaded, um, there's a meaning that that carries in the modern world that does not describe me.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, what being a pastor is helping people find spiritual beliefs and practices that work for them. Um, that, and by that I mean beliefs that help them become the best version of themselves, beliefs and practices that help them find a purpose greater than themselves, and beliefs and practices that help them experience transcendence. You know, maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's connection with God, maybe it's just the ability to rise above your current circumstances. And that's what I feel like the role of a pastor is. That's what my role is in the world. Um, and so online, I say that. In person, when people ask me what I do, um, because of the nature of this not church community, I say that I work with people who have religious trauma, and and then at some point, normally, if it keeps going, you know, I'm not a therapist. Like, I help people who want to stay engaged with God find spiritual beliefs and practices that work
Mm-hmm.
for them, and and sometimes I tell them about the fact that, you know, I have a huge social media following that's about that, um, and that is a Discord, it's Zooms, it's all kinds of things like that. Um, and it's a podcast, right? The a podcast that I do called Unbelief, 2 episodes a week.
Mm-hmm.
One is like a long form progressive teaching, usually on the Bible, but on an ancient spiritual text. And the other one is, this is one of the things that you brought up, is interviewing people like you do,
Mm-hmm.
because I think a lot of times, um, interview scholars and people like that, but I also interview just people who are on this journey of figuring out what they believe. And I find that, at least what people say, is that hearing somebody else's journey can help you process your own, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Figure out where
100%.
you are, what you're doing. You're like, yes, I've been trying to figure that out. That's right.
Mm-hmm. I think the one thing it does for me, the reason why I interview the people that I do is that not feeling so alone in it,
Yeah. Right.
you know, because somebody else is dealing with this the same way, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me more about Not Church. Like how did you start it? Were they asked, you asked to do it? Was it already there?
Yeah. Well, as I was, um, as this Skeptic Pastor brand that's
Hmm.
online right now, it's just like at this point, it's like 160,000 followers on TikTok, and like, I don't know, I think we're closing in on 30 on Instagram and
Hmm.
YouTube as well. And as we early on, 30,000 followers or so, I on TikTok, people started to ask for a place. They started calling themselves the Skeptic Pastor community.
Hmm.
And as I started exploring that, somebody said, like, we're looking for not church, like church, in that, like, we talk about spiritual things and we are there for each other, but nobody is telling us that we're going to hell for going in the woods and drawing a circle on the ground and calling to four corners or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
um, so uh, yeah, so it was sort of born out of that, and it was a it's been a beautiful thing. We've got a couple hundred people that are there, um, and yeah, and it's now my full-time job. Um, yeah, pretty cool.
And do you find yourself thinking like, wow, I can't believe I'm still doing this?
No, yeah, I don't understand it. Like I I don't understand why I feel like every day I'm like, okay, at some point I'm going to reach the maximum number of people that could put up with my bullshit.
Yeah.
And the maximum number keeps going up. So I'm surprised, like, that my life is really weird. Like, I get recognized by people in random places. It's like, um, I was never thought that this would be my life, but
Hmm.
it does feel like I'm making a positive impact in the world. And um, yeah, it seems like the best work I've ever gotten to do.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you are making a positive impact on the world. It's good. Um, so a lot of my listeners are still kind of sitting in the mess, this like disillusioned,
Yeah, yeah.
skeptical, but still holding on to something.
Hmm.
What's something you would say to them?
Well, I'd say that sort of I've got good news and bad news.
Hmm.
Um, the good news is um, that what you are experiencing is completely normal. And though I am sure there is um, a lot of trauma that is around it, and I
Hmm.
don't want to discount that. When people have, I really hate the term, but have deconstructed, for lack of a better term, and
Hmm.
it feels like they pulled at the thread of the sweater, and now it's just a tangled mess um, of yarn on the floor. Um, the task at hand, if they continue to engage in spirituality, is to figure out what it is that they do believe,
Hmm.
right? And you do that by asking questions, collecting data. As new data comes in, incorporating that into what you believe and how you practice your faith and spirituality. Um, so, like, the good news is that's actually just being a human,
Yeah.
right? It's a lot of people, especially people in high control religions,
Hmm.
the agency of belief was taken from them, and they were given a single set of beliefs that were the right set. You just
Hmm.
believed this, and so they inherited those beliefs. And so when those beliefs seem to unravel, it uh, it's very disorienting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of grief there. But the idea of trying to work through that mess seems overwhelming. But one of the key reasons it seems overwhelming is that you were given a full set of beliefs that were the right ones, and you were to believe that.
Hmm.
And the part of the reason that it feels overwhelming is because you feel like you have to get back to that place. Like I have to go
Hmm.
through these things and figure out all of the right things. But so the good news is, um, that's not what it is. Being a
Yeah.
human is receiving experiential and other kinds of data and incorporating that into your life and molding and growing your beliefs and practices um, to reflect what you feel like is reality and is reliable and is the truth, however you define that, however you define truth. Um, and and so what that means is you're never going to have one set of beliefs that is going to fit for you for the rest of your life. Um, and so that's the good news, right? Like it's not,
Yeah.
there is no rush to get through it all. But the bad news is, uh, this is the rest of your life, right? And you're coming at it from a place of stunted growth, right? You weren't likely taught the tools of selecting beliefs and practices, and you're gonna have to build that muscle up, and so it's gonna take time. Um, but yeah, I guess that's what I say to people who are in that place. There's there's nothing wrong with just leaving the pile of thread on the floor and going to another room in your life and watching TV, right?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. Um, it is quite likely that you just need to leave the pile and don't even think about it for a while.
Hmm.
You know where it is when you're ready to go back to it. Um, but again, sometimes you just need to take a breath, take a beat, and do something else. Read fucking Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to do that. Go do that. Go read the Hunger Games. Go read Twilight if you're interested in that kind of a thing. Like, um, yeah, just go and watch. What is I want to say Outlander, but Game of Thrones. Like you weren't allowed
Hmm.
to watch that. Go do that.
Nope. Yeah. Do things for yourself because we weren't allowed to do things for ourselves, you
Yeah,
know?
well, and explore
Hmm.
all of the places that were off limits, right?
Yep. Hmm.
Because um, you don't know, in a lot of ways, you don't fully know who you are right now.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
part of figuring that out is exploring. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Thank you for saying that. Um, in in one of your books, How to Not Suck as a Christian,
Yep.
I think one of the reasons why I continue to listen to what you say or in your platforms and follow you is there's a sense of ownership that you have on your part in the system.
Ah, shit. Yeah.
And I think for me, that was hard pill to swallow
Mhm.
because I want to be the victim 100%.
Yeah.
But then as I look back in my life and as I disseminate all of these things and think about this, it's just like I was part of the problem as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, I just think it's really important for us who are in here because it's very easy for us to take the flag and stand up on a tower again and just start
Right.
yelling at everyone. And I think it's not going to do anybody any favors to do that, you know?
No. No. Yeah. And I when I am trying to be in my public persona,
Hmm.
um, is that I'm pretending, right? Like is as authentic as I can be while
Hmm.
also being appropriate. Um, uh, and when I'm talking about something, just if I was part of it, I feel like the only way to be authentic,
Hmm.
if I'm going to talk about purity culture, the only
Yeah.
way to be authentic is for me to own the moments in which I participated in that oppressive, misogynistic, patriarchal system.
Yeah.
Um, and and I find that when I do that, it helps me feel okay about pushing back against it because there's something about pushing back that can feel a little hypocritical if you were
Hmm.
part of it,
Yeah.
right? Even though it needs that. It needs
Yeah.
people
Hmm.
who were on the inside to push back, to expose, to do all those things. But it feels a little hypocritical. But for me, when I confess, I'm like literally at the end of some of my videos, I'm like, all right, hard truth time. This was me, and I hate it, and it makes me sick. Um,
Hmm.
uh, when I do that, like it feels like now it's okay for me to be pushing back because I'm owning my part in it. And then I also find that um, that that is really helpful to people who were damaged by
Yeah.
whatever it was. That saying the thing, owning it, helps them because they feel like nobody is doing it.
Yeah.
Nobody's owning up to what they did that hurt them. And even
Hmm.
though I am not the one that hurt them, I sort of get to be a proxy for that person
Yeah.
in their life. And um, there's some amount of healing that can happen for some people by just hearing somebody say, "Yeah, I was part of the problem, and I am sorry."
Yeah. I think people have enough. There's enough people out there trying to hide it and
Yeah,
just, say, hey, don't look over here. I'm over here now,
yeah,
and but I also think for me, that's the last, it's one of the last places for me that's the hardest. It's still the hardest to forgive
hmm,
is knowing those things. Like, purity culture for us was just as intense. And I worked with teens and I sat in
yeah,
those devotionals. And although I wasn't leading it, I was there. And there was a moment in those that I'm like, this is wrong. But
hmm,
I just sat there and I'm complicit.
yeah, yeah,
But I think more people need to hear that leaders or ex-leaders or whatever, just owning part of them.
yeah.
Mhm. So you're in this place of, a pastoral role and all of this. What do you do to recharge yourself?
Well, therapy for
Hmm.
sure. There's
Yeah.
been a couple of moments online that I didn't anticipate
Mm-hmm.
uh, because there's some things that you do in a pastoral role. I even worked at a mega church for a minute, and there's some things you do in a church setting, even in a large church setting, that is helpful and healthy and wonderful. Um, but that when I've done something similar online, the scale is is overwhelming, is just intense. Um, like a live stream with 4,000 people
Oh.
saying what um, what was making them hurt right now during Christmas time,
Hmm.
right? Holding space for that. And so when some of that stuff happens, there's just a I have to process that with someone, with a professional, really.
Hmm.
And so that's a huge recharge for me. Um, I also love karaoke,
Right
and
on.
there's a bar very close to me um, that is that has karaoke every night and is queer and is all of these things where I can experience community and being known that is in no way associated with my church, with my social media following, though random people do find me there and I from my online life and want to talk for a while, which I get it. Um, but yeah, those that recharges me as well. And then like I
We
there's
have to
this
pause because you said
yeah.
karaoke.
Oh, for
What are
sure.
your what are your top, do you have like a top three songs that are like, if I'm gonna be singing karaoke, it's gonna be one
For
of
sure.
these?
Well, I mean, I sing karaoke everywhere. So I think I've been in 9 different cities so far this year. I've
Hmm.
sang at a karaoke bar in every single one of them.
Right on.
It's what I do to decompress, to whatever.
Hmm.
So, so I've got a long list.
Hmm.
But I generally I'll read the room to try to
Hmm.
see who's there. And if it is a little bit older, if there's people who are Latino um, in the mix, I'll do, or if I'm just not sure, I'll do Smooth by Santana.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. If if there's a good representation of theater kids and the Broadway gays, I will do You'll Be Back from Hamilton.
Oh,
If
wow.
if it's advanced version of that, I'll do
Mm.
Guns and Ships from Hamilton. And if I'm in DC or a political place, I will also do My Shot, which is a banger
Oh,
here.
yeah.
I live in the DC area. And then if I've got a lot of middle-aged straight white people, I will do 3 a.m. by Matchbox 20.
Oh, ah, that just goes all over the place.
Yeah, yeah,
I like it.
yeah, yeah.
My my top karaoke songs, All or Nothing by O Town.
Okay, okay.
Do you remember O Town?
I remember Old O Town. I don't remember that song, but yeah.
So they're a fourth level boy band,
But they
but
had a reality TV show, right?
yes, yes.
I
So
remember that.
that one always gets the crowd into it because everybody goes, "Oh my God, is that O Town?" So I love to do that one. I do Arms Wide Open only because it's by Creed, only because it's fun to do the voice and to make fun of the voice. Um, and then it's Short Skirt, Long Jacket by Cake.
Okay, that's classic. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then the last one is it's a very dividing song, but Rollin' by Limp Bizkit.
Okay,
I
okay.
just I just sometimes like to take it. Let's go off the rails
Yeah, I know for
and just
sure.
see where it goes.
Yeah, my second tier songs, I'll do Rehab by Amy Winehouse. I love that song. Yeah, anyway, it's we could talk about karaoke
Sure.
also for forever. I love
I
karaoke.
had to pause because you said
Yeah.
karaoke. I know I have my songs. I want to hear what your songs is.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
mhm. Yeah, so I mean, that's a great way to decompress.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Anything else you wanted to share about the recharging? I know we kind of derailed it, but it was
Um, yeah, I
was there
walk
anything
like
else?
there's
Hmm.
this book called Completing the Stress Cycle. And
Hmm.
so if I'm in a real stressful thing or I've had something that was kind of overwhelming or whatever, I'll just leave my office or my studio here and just walk down the street for a minute. And yeah, and then, at night, cigar, a glass of scotch, that combo is really good some nights.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's important
Yeah.
for anyone to you have to find what you need to
Yeah.
recharge your life, even if you're not a pastor or whatever. I mean, a lot of us just let life happen to us,
Yeah.
instead of like
Yeah.
being intentional. Um, music is a big part of my
Hmm.
spirituality.
Okay.
In many ways, I tell people music and concerts was the church that I wish I would have had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so are there any songs that are like, what are some songs that are like super important to you? Or a type of music that's super important to you that you feel that maybe even, the tingles, the goosebumps on the back of the neck, like that kind of thing.
Hmm. I I'm always collecting new music
Hmm.
and people that I love. I get a little obsessive though about about like music and TV shows and movies where I'll watch something over and over again, listen to
Hmm.
something over and over again. Um, so right now, I am listening to. There are three artists that is I'm constantly listening to.
Hmm.
One of them is Chapel Roan.
Yep.
Her music is um, it's just brilliant, and her co-writer, I they're charting it's my opinion, a completely new course for pop music,
Hmm.
and I love it. Um, there's an artist named Troye Sivan,
Hmm.
and his music, he's a gay musician, and a lot of his songs are about the queer experience, but in a like poppy, some of them are like club vibes, right? Like,
Hmm.
and then some of them are very intimate and soulful. I love his music. I listen to it all the time. And then there's another artist named Fletcher, and uh, she she's got her new albums called In Search of the Antidote, and she's very raw and honest in her lyrics. Uh, it's like one of the lyrics is, "You say I'm ruining my life on purpose just because I can." And then the next line is, "Maybe I am."
Hmm.
And like, even just saying that out loud gives me chill bumps. Um, and I find that, at least right now, those three artists. So um, I, I, music is one of the ways that I process, um, uh, not just the lyrics, but just the feeling of it. Like if I'm in a
Hmm.
dark emotional place, I want a dark song.
Yeah. Hmm.
And it helps me move through that. If I'm really excited, I want a really exciting song. So like, um, yeah, those are three artists right now that are, um, they're everything for me at the moment.
Yeah. You mentioning Chapel Roan, is it the Hottoggo?
That's right.
I've had that in my head off and on for 8 months now
Yeah. Yeah.
because my kid was over at his best friend's house and they were listening to it and they listened to it for like 5 times in a row. And
Hmm.
now it's like at quiet times and I just have that playing in my head.
Yeah. And she did this, so she did this song that just came out called The Giver.
Hmm.
And it's a country song um that goes like throwback to like 90s country, and but it is this like lesbian anthem. And so
Nice.
like it is this like really beautiful, like I hate country music. Okay, let me just be clear. I hate country music. I love this song. I love this song because well, there's this part of it that's like my childhood. It's like a lot of my childhood, there were people playing this kind of country music around me. Maybe that's part of what makes me hate it so much. But there's a sound of it that the sound of that to me is patriarchy, it is homophobia, it is
Mhm.
toxic masculinity, it is, it is pure, not purity culture. It is like it's objectifying women, it's all of these things,
Yeah.
right? And she has flipped it all on its head. It is as good musically as any of those songs are, but it is about her claiming her power as a lesbian woman and and uh, and really challenging all of those things. She's directly challenging all of the things that whole genre of music was about when I was younger, and I love it. Like at one point,
Hold on.
I put it on, and I had a 30-minute drive, and it was on repeat the entire time.
I'm gonna be in the car in a
Yeah.
little bit. Definitely. Yep. I just
It's
found
gonna
it on
if you
Spotify.
are in the car with kids, maybe not the best. Just like you listen to it first and you can decide whether or
Okay.
not it's okay.
Yeah.
Like it depends on how old your kids are. Like a lot of the things you have to understand the imagery that she's using, but like yeah.
Okay.
Uh, she like
Word.
she's like one of the things that she says a perfect way that she flips it. So like a lot of country songs will have this like I've got you wrapped around my finger, you got me wrapped around your finger.
Hmm.
And she says um uh basically she talks about like it would take her just a couple of minutes to have she's talking to a woman to have you wrapped around her fingers
Oh,
like
wow.
that, right?
Wow.
Which is like
Yeah,
brilliant. It's
it is.
artistic, it's
Hmm.
subversive, but in this like really playful, fun, sexy way. I don't know. I love it. Anyway,
That's
sorry.
awesome.
I got to
It's
stop
okay.
talking about chapel. This is
It's
not the
okay.
Chapel Roan cast.
No worries. There's just a couple more things I want to talk about or ask you real quick, but I think reading's a big deal. Is there a
Okay.
like a genre that's like your comfort food for reading? Like if you're needing just this is just about me. Because I bet you're reading all sorts of
Yeah,
Christian
reading
books.
from not Christian books, but
Or I mean
reading
like
for
spirit,
me,
yeah.
oh, I'm just saying, reading for me, uh, um, so I'm always sort of reading and researching.
Hmm.
And so sometimes reading itself can start to feel like my job.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so like going and reading at home can feel like and so there are it's sort of an ebb and flow. It's like the
Hmm.
tides for me. Like there are times when I don't read outside of work, and there are times when I do. When I do, when I'm reading for myself, um, if I'm in like I have to be in a specific moment, but I'm in this sort of deep contemplative kind of place, I will pick up poetry.
Hmm.
I love Joy Harjo. I love um, my Angelo. I love. I'm gonna mess it up. Pablo. Hmm.
Guy who wrote The
Anyway, the
Alchemist.
no, that's Paulo
Oh,
Coelho. This is a guy that the his famous work is love poems.
yep. I know the
Um,
guy you're talking about. Hmm.
I can't remember. Anyway, he's great. But that's like a subset. And then in general, though, I just want to read about vampires.
Nice.
So I love a good Anne Rice.
Yep.
And I've when I was on my book tour earlier this year, at each place we partnered with a local queer-owned bookstore
Hmm.
to be the person that sold the books, which meant I got very little money from it. But I was supporting a queer-owned store, and so like I would go in there, and I actually got some really great book recommendations. I would always buy a book, right? Because you got to support the places like that. I buy a book, and so I have this like stack of a handful of um, queer vampire novels that when I am in a place to read some fiction, I will be reading those.
Yeah, there's if you're ever in a place too, I don't know if you've heard of the author T.J. Klune.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, he his it's very great. There's Under the Whispering Door,
Mm,
and this lawyer dies, and he's in it's kind of like a tea shop, but it's
hmm.
kind I don't know if it's purgatory is the right word. I'm not finished
Yeah.
with it yet, but it's great writing. But he falls in love with the tea shop owner, who's basically the guide to get him to the next whatever the next thing
Oh,
is.
wow. That's
And so
wild.
it's him, it's their relationship, and
Huh.
um he's done. There's also House on the Edge of the Cerulean Sea is another great one. But
Yeah.
so yeah, those are great.
Yeah. I yeah, I love that. And um uh I just lost my train of thought. But
It's okay.
oh yeah, there's a genre of books. There's nothing out right now, but I call it special kid fiction.
Hmm.
One of the best books in that and ever actually one of the best books ever is a book called Ender's Game. I love that book. But
We could talk for 7 hours on
yeah,
Ender's
I
Game.
love that.
I've read every book that's
Yeah,
in that
yeah, me
realm.
too. Well, and I haven't read, and then there's Ender's Shadow, which I think is an
Hmm.
equally good, well, not equally, it's a close second. Then Harry Potter and
Hmm.
Divergent and um and Hunger Games, like the special kid fiction. I
Hmm.
love that. It's not its own genre really, but like when I find out about a new one of those, I'll
Right
get
on.
into that.
Yeah. I once I read Ender's Game, I read all the four in that specific series, and then it just goes off in directions, and
Yeah.
I've read every single one. It's amazing. So
Yep.
um but yeah, as we wrap up, I especially for my listeners, some of them they're hanging on by a thread, burnt out, confused, not really sure what they believe anymore. Is there something just you could say, maybe a sentence or two I could leave them with?
Yeah. Um,
I'll hit you with the big one or at the end.
there's no, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with being unsure about what you believe.
Hmm.
And um, in my expectation, my experience is that the ground is a lot closer than you think. And really, you might want to consider just letting go of the thread.
Mm.
Um, because if the thread is like what we talked about earlier, like this fiction that I'm gonna have all these beliefs figured out, it's not happening. Um, and there's absolutely nothing. No, I know that you've been brainwashed, indoctrinated deep into your core to not believe this statement, but there is absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, being able to be unsure about your beliefs, which is everybody, and name
Hmm.
it for the very first time, maybe, or very recently, you've actually made a huge positive step. It's not a negative one.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I guess that's what I'd say.
Awesome. It was beautiful. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time, have this conversation. It was great.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to plug?
Yeah,
Tell people where they can find you, all that stuff.
I would love to plug the Unbelief podcast. it is a labor of love. And if you like hearing people talk, I think it's a fun mix. Our community sort of designed it. It's one part, on Sundays, an episode that comes out like 30, 45 minutes of like, oh, you probably have heard this parable before, but it's not what you thought. Um, and lots of like sort of academic sources to that. That takes a lot of a lot of time to prep.
Mhm.
And then interviews of scholars or authors and people that are deconstructing. We're in the middle of one talking about a handful of interviews talking about purity
Mhm.
culture. Those normally come out on Wednesdays. So yeah, I think that's
Awesome.
what I'd plug. And you can find me. I'm Skeptic Pastor everywhere, and links and profiles to all the different things you might be interested in.
Awesome. Well, you guys should go check them out. And thank you so much for doing this and being here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, y'all. That's the conversation. I hope something in it met you where you are. I know for me, talking with Jeremy felt like a deep breath, like finding a fellow traveler who isn't afraid to admit he doesn't have it all figured out and still chooses to show up with hope, curiosity, and heart. If you want to follow more of Jeremy Steele's work, you can find him on Instagram at Skeptic Pastor. You can also check out his book, How to Not Suck at Being a Christian, and more wherever you buy your books. Now, you can listen to his podcast called Unbelief, wherever you get your podcasts. It's an honest, wise, and definitely worth a listen. And you can also explore his online faith community, Not Church, at notchurch.net. As for me, you can find everything I'm doing at clemenswithaz.com, podcast episodes, merch, blog posts, and more. And if anything in this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend, tag me on Instagram, or shoot me a message at clemenswithaz@gmail.com. I always love hearing what landed for y'all. You can also support the show by rating, reviewing, liking, and subscribing on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, following me on Substack at Devotionals for the Disillusioned and Deconstructing, or dropping a few bucks into the GoFundMe link in the show notes. And hey, if you want something cool like stickers or a mug, check out the shop. It's a small thing, but it helps keep this thing going. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. And remember, you don't have to have all the answers. Sometimes just showing up with your questions and your heart still open is more than enough. Peace.